who are brave enough to face the truth about this world and not roll their eyes, not shrug their shoulders and act like it's no big deal. People who face the truth about what's going on are brave. Because there's some scary things going on and nobody wants to talk about it. For the record, what I'm about to talk about, I'm not for or against. And I'm going to have to bring up politics, but it's not about politics. Something was brought interdimensionally into this world, and it hasn't completely come into fruition yet. But this isn't something to take lightly. Put on your crazy hats and let's go for a little ride. Now, unfortunately, this may be a little painful, but to understand fully, I'm going to need to take you back to an emotional time. We're going to have to go back to when no one thought Trump had a chance in hell.
There's not going to be a President Donald Trump. That's not going to happen.
Donald Trump will not become president.
Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Take it to the bank. Okay. I guarantee it.
All right.
I think that man will be president of the United States right about the time that spaceships come down filled with dinosaurs and red capes.
Donald Trump has been saying that he will run for president as a Republican, which is surprising since I just assumed he was running as a joke.
Donald Trump, just last week, he confirmed to the National Review that he is again considering a run in 2016.
Do it. Do it. Look at me. Do it. I will personally write you a campaign check now on behalf of this country, which does not want you to be president, but which badly wants you to run.
He will never be president of the United States.
And we better be ready for the fact that he might be leading the Republican ticket next.
I know you don't believe that, but I want to go on to
Sorry to laugh.
And which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Right now, Donald Trump.
Right now, Mr. Trump, to answer your call for political honesty, I just want to say, you're not going to be president, all right? It's been fun. It's been great. I love you. But come on, buddy.
President Obama will go down as perhaps the worst president in the history of the United States! Exclamation point at real Donald Trump. Well, at real Donald Trump, at least I will go down as a president.
So she's ahead in almost every poll, every swing state, every national poll.
Everyone's going to be a little bit skeptical this year because so few of us saw Trump coming back in August. You said he had about a 2% chance of getting the nomination. He got it.
Everybody around this table that I know, we've been in every presidential campaign probably since 1980 in various degrees. And in Trump's problem, he doesn't have you don't know what his compass is.
I talk to people all the time, as I'm sure everybody around the table does, and they say, why don't you Republicans do something about this guy?
Trump, who's had a horrific month and a half since the convention, as bad as any major national candidate in modern American history. And yet, shockingly, he's still 3-4 points behind.
Drop out. Simply drop out and tell America this entire candidacy was a stunt, a satire designed to expose the flaws in the system. And the thing is, you could actually make a fairly decent case for that.
You know, it's not devastating on any one day, but it seems like we're getting to the death by 1,000 cuts feel.
Donald Trump will never be elected president of the United States. All these polls are a joke.
The Memetic and occult attacks upon Hillary Clinton, it involves literally tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of participants, some of which are aware of what's happening, many of which are not.
On this, there are easy tactics. I know them. How to get more voice and virality to messaging that we're not using as a government to get counter messages out there. I know something about memes, to get memes to go more viral. Look at their fancy memes compared to what we're not doing.
All key tenets making up the emerging racist ideology known as the alt-right. Now,
so let's go ahead and talk about how Pepe the Frog, the meme, became the emergence of an ancient Egyptian deity that manifested through the hate from that election. And apparently it's not going back, it's just getting stronger. As much as I'm tired of the lies from our government and the spirit cooking and everything that they do, I think now more than ever, it's time to choose wisely what we put our heart into, what we identify ourselves with, because it might just be the only forever choice we ever make. So anyway, let's talk about Kek. Kek around 2010 became popular on 4chan as a way to say LOL, K-E-K. It's Korean. And about that same time, about 2010, a sad-looking cartoon frog began to trend on 4chan, which is an underground message board. So Pepe the Frog and Kek the Giggle were both part of 4chan's identity at the time that they chose Donald Trump as their candidate of choice because they were fed up with politics. Who can blame them? So 4chan kind of merged these memes together into Pepe the Frog, Kek, Donald Trump. Then it started getting weird. So every 4chan post that is made gets assigned an 8-digit numerical stamp. And that number represents the post's entry position on the entire posting lineage of the image board. Because it's a random roll, when a poster gets repeated digits, it's called dubs or trips or quads and so on. And that's called a get. Like, yay, you got it. So people sometimes bet on whether they're going to get doubles. And it started happening a lot that Trump posts would get frequent gets or dubs or whatever. So that got noticed because it was celebrated every time. Then the unthinkable happened. On 6/19/16, someone posted Trump will win, and all 8 digits of the timestamp were 7s. And it brought many dubs. And everyone pretty much freaked out. And that was one of the first times it felt really real. Then come to find out, Kek is actually an Egyptian deity, a frog-headed one. And more specifically, Kek, also spelled K-U-K or K-E-K-U, is the deification of the primordial concept of darkness in ancient Egyptian religion, represented by a frog-headed man, or in female form, a snake-headed woman. They are a symbol of darkness and also represented obscurity and the unknown, and thus chaos. And also it was seen that they came in just before dawn, so they were the bringer in of light, which made me think of Lucifer right away, the bearer of light, but everybody associated it with the Make America Great Again Trump stance. And it was about that time that a little statuette was found on Amazon in a vendor called Ancient Treasures that was mislabeled a Kek statue of a frog, but it was actually bearing the hieroglyphs for the frog goddess Heket. And interestingly enough, the hieroglyphics look like a person sitting at a computer and something is manifesting like a DNA helix on the other side of the computer. How appropriate for Kek, who is the deification of darkness, coming into being, manifesting. And that means manifesting through people being on their computers in a community and putting their emotions into a frog-like figure whose name is Kek or Kok, and associated with this election and things like that. So very much meme magic, and it doesn't need you to believe in it to work. That's the thing about magic. And I don't think it's any accident that this was a mislabeled Kek statue that was actually Heket, a female frog. I think that this was a ceremonious birthing ritual that was brought up by this deity, this deification process itself. I'll try to explain. Heket, who was the little statue of the mislabeled Kek statue of the frog that everyone found, had the hieroglyphs of Heket, who was in ancient Egyptian theology the goddess of fertility, who was depicted as a frog, but later she became known as the goddess of resurrection because she was known to have breathed life into Horus, who was the son and resurrection of Osiris, who is depicted as a very green centerpiece of the ancient Egyptian mythology. And I was kind of surprised that he's incredibly green, like green as Pepe the Frog, you could say. And I always thought he was black-skinned or maybe blue because he's associated with death and resurrection, but he's green than a myrrh, so that was surprising to me. And you may notice his headpiece looks rather phallic. At this point, everybody started stocking up on these little statues, and they would sit at their computers and make memes, and the little goddess of resurrection, Heket, would, well, I don't know, meme Magic Kek into existence, maybe? Anyway, people went frog crazy, and there were all kinds of praise Kek, this and that, and shrines and everything. But let's go ahead and get back to the story. The 8 sevens post, which oddly enough had the word Kek in it, yeah, is known as the prophecy of Kek, and then the statue was found with the hieroglyphs. By now everybody's praying to Kek, like for real seriously. Pepe had pretty much gone from feels good man to feels bad man to smug Pepe, and there were all kinds of dank memes of Pepe's, and man, there were new species of frogs discovered all over the place, and they're, you know, weird. Some of them weren't even really identified. That one's the yin yang frog, I think. That one's just crazy looking. This is the glass frog, see-through frog. And they're, yeah, just straight up orange frogs. Hairy frogs. These are leucistic frogs. Oh yeah, there were snakes too that were new species discovered. Rainbow snakes. And that one just freaks me out. This guy is the closest living relative of a huge frog known as Beelzebufo. Does that name remind you of anybody? Yeah, I'm sorry. If I laugh, it's because this thing makes me nervous. There was a straight up frog in my house and I don't know how it got there. That was the first day I ever started researching our friend here, Kek. It was there when I got home, and it was a tiny, tiny frog, but it was in my house. So, yeah. A similar thing actually happened to Ivanka Trump. She found a frog in the skyscraper of their office during the campaign. And on September 10th, this was posted by Trump's son, Don Jr., that is. Here's where it gets kind of dark. 3 things happened on September 11th, 2016, within 48 hours of each other. First of all, Hillary declared war on Pepe the Frog due to his association with the alt-right. And then, pretty immediately afterwards, she had a spell where she fell out. And that was the second thing that happened. Third and weirdest thing that happened was that Pepe's musical anthem is discovered on YouTube. A few anonymous 4chan contributors discovered an old track from the 80s on YouTube. As you can see, it depicts a Pepe-like frog holding a magic wand, and it says magic sound. There looks like a 666 backward swirl in the middle. The name of the song is called Chatelet, which is clearly labeled point emerging, probably entering. And this is thought to symbolize that Pepe is emerging into our reality at points of probability, like the numbers randomly generated, the doubles and everything. So I'm gonna come back to that in a little bit. So the lyrics are in Italian, and it's a pop song, and it's become the anthem of the cult of Kek. They're translated as cosmic absolute, regular reality, breath of an image concept, syntony of civilizations. So this word syntony, it means a matching of frequencies, more specifically when 2 oscillations reach the same resonant frequency. It's also used in psychology as a term that means emotionally in harmony with one's environment. So a syntony of civilizations would essentially mean becoming the same resonant frequency across civilizations, across time and culture. Incidentally, the word syntony was only used very shortly before the turn of the century of the year 1900. So it hasn't been used in over 100 years, and it was only used very briefly, mostly for the psychology aspect. I want to let you hear from Margaret, who is a Kekistani, I guess you could say. Here she is.
Chatelet, my friends. My name is Margaret, and I'd like to invite you to join me in an ongoing series entitled Praise Kek, which hopes to fully explain the way in which meme magic from the ancient world has been brought back to life by modern internet users who only wish to remain anonymous, with all glory going to the frog. Donald J. Trump is perhaps best known as the man chosen by Kek to be the winner of the recent American presidential election. Mainstream heretical media, who have so far failed to understand our devotion to Kek or the memes through which we express that devotion, are victims of another double standard. That is, the double numbers through which Kek shows his influence. Every follower of Kek knew that Trump would win when a forum post on a Chinese sand art fan site prophesied that fact back in June 2016. There is not only a double standard, but a double universe existing simultaneously and miraculously. Many followers of Kek are aware of the split timeline theory. Current scholars believe that the god Kek cleaved time itself, saving us, his chosen people, to live in the timeline where Trump wins the election, known affectionately as the Berenstein universe. We don't just live in the timeline where Kek communicates to us through double digits. We live in the timeline where Kek has cursed our enemies with the double standards through which they are destroying themselves. Kek uses his memes created anonymously to influence the real world. I hope you continue to join me as I act as a humble servant to Kek, bringing you the true story of how laughter and meme magic infected the modern world as I unveil the mystery of the cult of Kek and his meme magic. Chatelet.
Thank you, Margaret. And so that was a devotee of the Kek movement. And as you can see, there are a bunch of places named Kek. And you're probably wondering how serious all this is, like if it's satire or if it's real. The lines get blurred pretty quickly, like all these Pepe heads on actual soldiers. Let's put that down for just a moment, and let's talk about what is serious. That is the Kek facilities. There are 2 huge facilities in Japan that are particle accelerators that are making matter and antimatter. They're innovative, and honestly, it's very possible that all this messing with matter and antimatter and crashing particles together and such things have really caused some serious dimensional issues. They're doing what's called CP symmetry. And just like I was talking about earlier, the oscillations becoming the same resonant frequency, that's exactly what they're doing. They're studying CP violation, and like zombies, they all say the same thing about our universe. They say our universe used to have equal number of matter and antimatter in it, but now it doesn't. And what happened to all the antimatter? And that's like a ridiculous question, because we're made of matter and we're annihilated by antimatter. Anyway, weird things started happening around this election time, like Trump looks just like Patton, and they wondered if they had reincarnated him or something, and there's talk of him being a time traveler and everything. And by the way, the word Trump suddenly appeared in the Bible around the election time. Yeah, I'm sorry that I laugh. I laugh because it scurs me, y'all. It is freaky stuff, but here's about the Kek accelerators.
Welcome to KEK, the High Energy Accelerator Research Organization. We experiment and research on the origin of the universe, unknowns in matter, and secrets of life.
Don't those little swirly things look a lot like that symbol on the hieroglyphics?
We have 2 campuses.
And that's dubs, y'all.
One in Tsukuba City and the other in Tokai Village. At the Tsukuba campus, we accelerate electrons, and at the Tokai campus, protons.
So each particle beam is made up of protons, electrons, and also positrons. That's P-E-P-E, Pepe, millions of times. That means lots and lots of point emerging, probably entering places.
After the Big Bang, the same number of particles and antiparticles existed. The universe today is only made up of ordinary matter.
Yeah, isn't that a problem, guys? All this ordinary matter?
Almost all antiparticles have somehow disappeared.
Because they don't belong here.
For this to happen, there must be a difference in the behavior of particles and antiparticles. This asymmetry in their behavior is called CP violation, which introduced a model that contained 6 quarks, even though only 3 quarks were known at the time. In 2001, the Bell experiment successfully measured CP violation in B meson decays. The Babar experiment in the United States published a similar result.
And did you catch that was 2001? It seems a little early to me to be having particle accelerators running all over the world. But anyway, so the Babar is at SLAC in California, and it has a Pep 2. So it has a Pepe, basically. And I don't know if you can see the onks on this thing, but the radio frequency cavities that create luminosity and extra power are basically what Pepe is designed for. The Bell 2 detector is a particle accelerators detector in one of the Kek facilities.
Let's see in detail how the Bell 2 detector works. An electron and positron are accelerated to nearly the speed of light. They are then collided at the center of the detector. The positron is the antimatter counterpart to the electron. When these two particles collide, they annihilate into a pair of B mesons. B mesons quickly decay into several lighter particles, which fly away in all directions.
That's what they look at, is for the decay. It's the split, not even second, it's like nanoseconds of right when the particles break apart into bagillions of pieces. That's an actual technical term, bagillions. I just made it up. I mean, are they really just making dark matter come into this world? Or are they really just doing CP violation? It's the one thing that the standard model can't explain, and we're all just wondering what dark matter is, but really we're making it every second that we have these huge particle accelerators running and colliding antimatter and matter together. I mean, we used to be, I thought, focused on finding our creation story, how matter was made, but now it really just seems to be concerned with antimatter. Which brings the story back to Kek. So remember the Berkeley riots? Berkeley is one of the places that stores the most antimatter in the world. So in 2017, there were a bunch of Berkeley protests. It was kind of a anti-Trump thing. There was a big Kekistani presence there. Berkeley is the place that they have stored antimatter the longest. I feel that it's probably the place that this guy was talking about, the CERN insider, when he said this back in 2015.
They once kept dark matter in a college. I won't name it for the sake of the college or the university. They had to move it to a deep underground facility because of what was happening to the people in the college. People began to have vivid dreams, nightmares, violence began to erupt, and vile things began to happen in those places. It effectively increases paranormal activity around where it's contained. And this is why they shift facilities.
Antimatter affects people, and the more it's produced, the more negative forces are supposedly unleashed inside of people as well. I don't know if you saw any footage from the Berkeley riots, but this is how it's described. Very negative things like extreme anger, hatred, fear, and all sorts of other things can be generated in the snap of a finger by this type of experimentation with antimatter and the decay, which is dark matter, decay from collisions. So opening that doorway into those dimensions is inviting senseless chaos and anger. I'd like to think that's not true, but neither side seems to know what the other side is really feeling.
Are you all right? Really all right? Get out of my way. What are y'all doing? What are y'all doing?
I'm filming videos.
Why are y'all filming? What are you filming? What's there to film? All the Nazis are on the other side of the street. That's where the
How do you know they're
action's
Nazis?
at.
Have you talked to any of them?
Yeah, because
I
I've
don't
seen
see
some
any
Nazi
Nazi
flags.
flags.
Yeah, there is.
I can't see a single
You know
one.
there's a Nazi flag, so don't even pretend.
There is some confusion because the Kekistani flag, well, is basically modeled after the Nazi flag, I guess. I mean, what do you think? And it seems that, you know, some of them, I guess, are Nazis. I don't know. And almost as if it was done on purpose, the Antifa symbol is the exact same symbol as the 1933 Communist Party of Germany in the 1930s. So it seems that both sides are using symbolism of the same faction, Nazi Germany, 1930.
Kekistani people are here. They stand with Bannon because Bannon stands with the oppressed minorities, the oppressed people of Kekistan. They will be heard. They will be set free. Reparations for Kekistan now. We will. We've done the Norman oppression for too long. The oppression will end.
All y'all need to know is that flag looks like the Nazi flag without a swastika. That's all you need to know about that.
The only thing on a Nazi flag is a swastika. So what's a Nazi flag without a swastika?
Nothing more, nothing less.
Have a flag with yellow and purple on it. You'd be like it was a Nazi flag.
Was he? Nope, it's the Kekistan flag right here. It says
That's phony. There's no Kekistan. It doesn't exist.
A Kekistan denier! We have a Kekistan! He's denying the Kekistan! You guys heard it! He's denying the Kekistan right here!
And what do you think?
Explain to him what Kekistan is. Wow, that's a long.
If we can shorten it to like 30 seconds.
Okay,
Let's see.
Kekistan is like an online community of displaced peoples on the internet.
Yeah.
And it's an online community of trolls that do it for their deity, Kek. And they're also racist and bigoted. They're probably and they're Nazis.
And wait, what?
What does that mean? What is it?
It's Free Kekistan. It's for the ethnic people of Kekistan. They're oppressed, and we're fighting for their freedom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we want them to be able to have their own state and be their own people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You betcha.
Yeah, maybe write it down and support it.
Yeah, I will. I will.
Thank you.
I actually was going to do some outreach there.
Really?
Big time.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
Then ISIS came around and it was all stopped.
Yeah, I know.
So big time, but doesn't mean I'm not going.
I know, right?
It's just a short season, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Free
Take care.
Kekistan.
Absolutely. God bless.
Oh my gosh.
Fucking touch me again! You saw you touched me, right? Fucking touch me again!
Hit me. You gotta understand the conditions. See, that side supports the ruling class and the federal government, the man who is in power.
Yeah, I don't support that.
We are the rebellion.
How many fucking countries are we occupying right now? How many Native Americans died for that flag? You're real quiet now. We're talking about genocide. We're talking about colonialism.
How many people died installing communism in Russia?
We're talking about genocide.
It seems that both sides, I don't know, the lines are blurred. It's chaos. It's really just chaos. And the fact that people are fighting so hard for things that are chaotic, they don't seem to really stand for anything. And they mix reality in with satire, which, sure, that can be okay in healthy doses, but like, for instance, this picture, those are real soldiers, and that's a real thing. But when you slap some Pepe heads on all the soldiers, it becomes about Kekistan, which is not real. This is the symbol for chaos and for chaos magic. And if you notice on the cover of the Pepe album from the Chatelet song that from the 1980s, it features a clock very similar to the Trump Tower clock, and also a man with bright yellow hair, and on that man's head was the chaos symbol. There's an excellent interview done by Greg Carlwood of the Higherside Chats when he interviewed ATL Carver about Kek. And here's a little bit of that interview here. They're talking about a video game from the 1990s that was called Donald Trump's Real Estate Tycoon, and you got to build your own empire and be a tycoon.
And they have all these just random generic logos, and one of them is Pepe, the word Pepe.
Right. A corporate name you can choose called Pepe, and the logo behind it seems to be a winding road symbol, which you could definitely connect to this saga if you wanted to. It is quite a winding road, especially if you were going to plant something in the mid-90s about something that was going to happen in 2016.
At some point within this timeline, in between adopting Sad Pepe, we transform him into Smug Pepe. It's a frog who has this very smug expression on it, this very sly grin, and he's holding up his finger and thumb to his chin. It was very perplexing to us that Pepe underwent this transformation where he now has this secret that he's harboring. There's really no justification for the meme. Like, we talk about how memes are very competitive and they have to resonate in the right way. There was really none of that for this meme. It just came out of the ether. The common response to posting that picture, people would say, "Why so smug, Pepe?" It's almost like a precursor to Trump winning, and then you see the media having to eat their words and all this blowing up in their faces. People are feeling very smug now. It's another aspect of the puzzle. It's so strange that it worked out like that. You'll just see every day on 4chan, someone will post a message some way significant, and their post number will be 77. Kek works in mysterious ways, and 1% chance goes to them. They get the dubs. It is the most perfect example of chaos magic working that you could ever imagine, and I'll explain to you why. Some people, this is just their hobby. Once you start getting into it, you realize it's so entertaining. It's a buffet of emotional states. It really is. And then you'll go into another thread and you'll just be laughing at all this banter going back and forth. And then you'll go into another thread. They're airing out their woes and you get very sad. You get to ride the whole spectrum of the emotional roller coaster within the span of an hour. The principle in chaos magic is that these high energy emotional states, they are what charge sigils. And so while you're browsing through these emotional states on 4chan, you're also seeing Pepe's, because he's a very popular meme. Maybe this is how people were charging this sigil with all this power just by the mechanics of the image board. The other way to charge a sigil that's very significant is trance state. Like when you're watching TV, and it's the time when your eyes glaze over, the subconscious membrane kind of loosening up, send your energy out into the world or be manipulated. This state of no mind, this meditative state, that's another way to charge a sigil. A corporate logo is a sigil in a sense. So when you see a sigil and you're charging your sigil, right, eventually your sigil is now going to be its own entity and it's going to be charging other people, directing energy towards other people. That's what I see a logo as. I see a logo almost as like an anti-sigil.
A top memologist dubbed Gobekli Pepe, which is the most perfect name. He found something about a fan-made version of Pokemon called Pokemon Chaos, of all things. Can you tell us about this one?
I didn't know that some people are so into Pokemon that they make their own games for it. One of these games was called Pokemon Chaos. This guy, he made his whole roster of Pokemons. He named one of them Shadowley. The design of this Pokemon looks a lot like Pepe. It's a sad-looking amphibian. So once again, this very strange stack of coincidences.
Calling the thing Shadowley. Of all the possible names, if people don't remember, that is the name of the song that we talked about from the 80s CD. And another point about Shadowley is the one untranslatable word, right? I mean, apparently there's no equivalent.
Right. So it just, once again, like a good meme, it becomes something you can kind of project your own meaning onto.
So there's so much more to this story, but I gotta wrap it up sometime. I'm gonna leave you with one more just kooky thing. There is another random song that was found that goes with all this. Here it is.
have a frog and his name is Pepe. Around the garden you can see him hop. His skin is green and without a tail.
Okay, tail is spelled wrong, so that's saying without a tail, as in without a story. So anonymous, like 4chan.
He never knows when it's time to stop. When I say Pepe, come here, he's hopping, hopping. Pepe, please stop. He's hopping, hopping. Pepe, sit down. He's hopping, hopping. You're teasing me now. You're teasing me now.
So this song just appeared, just like the other anthem of Pepe by the band Pepe, in Italian. This one appeared on some children's show. I guess it wasn't USA. I don't know. It's crazy though, and I'm not even going to get into the symbolism in this video or why he's totally in charge of these two twin girls that are named, by the way, the Pepas. Yeah, because they're like his, yeah. Anyway, whatever. So yeah, now you know about Pepe the Frog and Kek. You know some of a little bit of the story, and woo, is there lots more. But I guess that's for another video or maybe a live chat. Feel free to ask questions. I hope I was clear about everything. I found a lot of ancient artifacts with, I mean, I just kind of see it everywhere I go now. Frogs. I most definitely take note if I see a frog anywhere. That's all I'm saying. There's a lot more, so I guess I'm gonna have to do a part 2 someday. But thank you guys for watching, and again, feel free to ask me questions or clarify anything that I maybe didn't go over well enough. It's just, this is a crazy thing, and yeah, it's spooky, it's creepy. Anyway, thanks for watching. Much love to everybody.